I should have known something was wrong the moment I stepped off that plane. My hands were shaking as I rolled my suitcase through the airport terminal, exhausted from the 14-hour flight but buzzing with excitement. My little sister was getting married. The sister I'd changed diapers for, taught to ride a bike, protected from bullies in middle school. She was finally getting her fairy tale ending, and I had flown halfway across the world to be there for her biggest day. But when I turned on my phone after landing, there were no messages. Not one. No can't wait to see you text. No safe flight, check-in. Nothing from Maya. Nothing from Mom. Nothing from anyone in the family group chat that had been exploding with wedding details for months. Just silence. I told myself they were busy. Final preparations. Last-minute chaos. Normal wedding stuff. I grabbed an Uber and headed straight to the venue, this gorgeous vineyard estate an hour outside the city where Maya had always dreamed of getting married. I'd helped her pick it out over video calls, watching virtual tours together while I was overseas for work, both of us crying happy tears. The Uber driver kept glancing at me in the rearview mirror as we drove. I must have looked insane, grinning like an idiot in my rumpled travel clothes, clutching a garment bag with my bridesmaid dress inside. When we pulled up to the vineyard, my stomach dropped. The parking lot was empty. Completely empty. No cars. No vans. No catering trucks. No people rushing around with flowers and decorations. Just nothing. The venue looked beautiful, sure, with its rolling hills and perfect rows of grapevines, but it looked untouched. Quiet. Like no one had been there in days. I paid the driver with trembling hands and stood there in the gravel parking lot, my suitcase tipping over in the wind. This had to be wrong. Maybe I had the wrong vineyard. Maybe there were two locations and I'd gotten confused. I pulled out my phone and checked the address again. No, this was it. This was definitely it. I walked up to the main building, my heels crunching on the gravel, each step feeling heavier than the last. The front door was locked. I cupped my hands against the window and peered inside. Dark. Empty. No chairs arranged. No table settings. No sign that a wedding was supposed to happen here today. My heart was pounding now, that sick feeling spreading through my chest like ice water. I pulled out my phone and called Maya. Straight to voicemail. I called Mom. Voicemail. I called my brother, Jason. Voicemail. 3 more calls to Maya. Nothing. 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 What the hell was happening? I stood there in that empty parking lot, the wind whipping my hair around my face, and felt the first real spike of panic. Had something terrible happened? Was there an emergency? Had the wedding been cancelled? Was Maya okay? My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type as I opened our family group chat. The last message was from 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks. I'd been so buried in work, finishing up a massive project overseas, that I hadn't noticed the chat had gone silent. I'd assumed everyone was just busy. I'd assumed everything was fine. I scrolled up through the messages, my throat getting tighter with each swipe. There. 2 months ago. Maya announcing the wedding date. June 15th. That was today. That was definitely today. I had it marked on my calendar. I'd booked my flights around it. I'd requested time off work. I'd spent a fortune on this trip. I kept scrolling, looking for any mention of a change, any indication of what I was missing. And then I saw it. A message from 5 weeks ago. From Maya. Quick update everyone. We're moving the wedding up by 3 weeks. I know it's sudden but we found an opening at the venue and it's actually perfect timing. New date is May 25th. Mark your calendars. May 25th. That was 3 weeks ago. The wedding had already happened. My sister got married 3 weeks ago, and no one told me. I read the message again. And again. And again. The words weren't changing. The date wasn't changing. This was real. This had actually happened. I scrolled down through the responses. Mom had sent a string of excited emojis. Jason had replied sounds good. My aunt had said congratulations. My cousins had all confirmed. Everyone had known. Everyone had adjusted their plans. Everyone except me. But that didn't make sense. I was in the group chat. I should have gotten the notification. I should have seen the message. Unless. I clicked on the chat info and felt my stomach lurch. The message had been sent while I was mid-flight to a work conference in Singapore. I'd been in airplane mode for 16 hours. And when I landed, I'd been immediately pulled into back-to-back meetings for 3 days straight. By the time I'd checked the family chat again, the message would have been buried under dozens of other conversations. I'd never seen it. I'd never known. But that still didn't explain why no one had followed up with me personally. Why hadn't Maya called me? Why hadn't Mom texted me directly? Why hadn't anyone noticed I hadn't responded? Why hadn't anyone thought to make sure I, the maid of honor, knew the wedding date had changed? My vision was blurring. I couldn't tell if it was from tears or rage or the complete disorientation of realizing that my entire family had gathered for my sister's wedding without me. They'd walked down the aisle. They'd given toasts. They'd danced and celebrated and eaten cake. And I wasn't there. I didn't even know it was happening. I tried Maya again. Voicemail. I tried Mom again. Voicemail. I sent text after text after text. Where are you? What's going on? Why is the venue empty? Did the date change? Someone answer me. Nothing. No one was responding. It was like I didn't exist. I sat down right there on the steps of the venue, my suitcase beside me, my carefully packed bridesmaid dress still in its garment bag, and tried to breathe. Tried to think. Tried to understand what was happening. And then my phone buzzed. Not from the family chat. Not from Maya or Mom or anyone I'd been desperately trying to reach. It was a notification from Instagram. Someone had posted a photo and tagged me. My hands were shaking as I opened the app. The photo was from 3 weeks ago. Posted by my cousin Rachel. A beautiful shot of Maya in her wedding dress, surrounded by all the bridesmaids in their matching sage green dresses. The caption read, "Best day ever celebrating this gorgeous bride." I wasn't in the photo. Obviously. Because I wasn't there. But everyone else was. Mom. Jason. All my cousins. Even my elderly grandmother who I'd been told couldn't travel. They were all there, all smiling, all celebrating, all perfectly aware that the wedding was happening that day. I scrolled through the comments. Dozens of them. Friends and family members gushing about how beautiful everything was. How perfect the ceremony was. How emotional the vows were. How delicious the food was. I kept scrolling through the tagged photos, each one making me feel sicker. Maya cutting the cake. Maya's first dance with her new husband. Mom crying happy tears during the toast. Jason walking Maya down the aisle because Dad wasn't around anymore, that honor that he'd asked my opinion about, that I'd helped him write his speech for. The speech he'd apparently given without me there to hear it. Every single person I loved had been in those photos. Except me. And then I saw another photo that made my blood run cold. It was Maya, still in her wedding dress, hugging someone. The caption said, "So grateful this amazing woman could make it." The woman in the photo was my ex-girlfriend, Diane. Diane. Who I'd dated for 3 years. Diane, who I'd brought to family gatherings and holiday dinners. Diane, who'd broken my heart 8 months ago by cheating on me with her coworker. Diane, who I'd specifically asked Maya to UN invite from the wedding because I couldn't bear to see her there on what was supposed to be my sister's special day. Maya had promised me. She'd looked me in the eye over video chat and promised me that Diane wouldn't be there. That she understood. That she'd never put me in that position. And yet there she was, at the wedding I didn't even know was happening, wearing a beautiful dress and smiling like she belonged there. My phone slipped out of my hands and clattered onto the stone steps. I couldn't breathe. My chest felt like it was caving in. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. There had to be an explanation. Some reasonable explanation for all of this. I picked up my phone and called Maya again, and this time, miracle of miracles, she answered. Hello. Her voice sounded casual. Normal. Like nothing was wrong. Maya. My voice came out strangled. Where are you? Oh hey. You're back. How was your flight? How was my flight? How was my flight? Was she serious right now? Maya, I'm at the vineyard. The wedding venue. Where are you? What's going on? There was a pause. A long pause. In the background, I could hear voices. Laughter. Music. Oh, she said finally, and something in her tone made my skin crawl. You went to the vineyard? Yes, I went to the vineyard. For your wedding. That's today. June 15th. That's what we planned. That's what's been on the calendar for months. Another pause. Didn't you see the message in the group chat? We moved the wedding up. It was 3 weeks ago. Her voice was so calm. So matter-of-fact. Like she was telling me she'd rearranged the living room furniture, not that she'd gotten married without me. I didn't see the message, I said, and I could hear my voice breaking. I was traveling for work. I was on a plane when you sent it. Maya, why didn't you call me? Why didn't you make sure I knew? Why didn't anyone tell me directly? I put it in the group chat, she said, and now there was a defensive edge to her voice. Everyone else saw it. Everyone else made it work. I'm your sister. I'm supposed to be your maid of honor. You couldn't pick up the phone and call me. You were busy with work, she said coldly. You're always busy with work. Honestly, we weren't even sure you'd be able to make it anyway. The words hit me like a slap. What are you talking about? I've had this planned for months. I've been counting down the days. I flew 14 hours to be here for you. Well, maybe you should have checked your messages more carefully. I couldn't speak. I literally couldn't form words. My little sister, the girl I'd raised practically as much as Mom had, was speaking to me like I was an inconvenience. Like I was the problem. Maya, I whispered. What is happening right now? She sighed, and I could hear the sound of a door closing, the background noise cutting off. When she spoke again, her voice was lower. Look, I didn't want to do this over the phone, but you're kind of forcing my hand here. The truth is, I didn't really want you at the wedding. The world tilted. What? I didn't want you there, okay? I know that sounds harsh, but I've been feeling this way for a while now. You left. You moved overseas for your fancy job. You're never around. You missed Thanksgiving last year. You missed Mom's birthday. You're always working, always traveling, always putting your career first. And when you are around, everything has to be about you. Your problems. Your drama. Your breakup with Diane. That's not fair, it's completely fair. Her voice rose. Do you have any idea how exhausting it is to always be in your shadow? Perfect older sister with the perfect career and the perfect life. Even when things go wrong for you, like your breakup, you manage to make it everyone else's problem. You made me promise not to invite Diane to my wedding. My wedding. Because you couldn't handle seeing her. Do you realize how selfish that is? I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. So you invited her anyway, I said numbly. You invited my ex to your wedding and didn't tell me. She's my friend too, Maya said. And honestly, she's been more present in my life this past year than you have. She helped me pick out my dress. She threw me a bridal shower. She was actually here for me. I was overseas for work. I couldn't you chose work over family. You always do. So yes, I moved the wedding date and I didn't go out of my way to make sure you knew. I figured if you really cared, you'd pay attention. You'd check in more than once every few weeks. You'd actually be present in our lives instead of just swooping in when it's convenient for you. Tears were streaming down my face now, hot and fast. Maya, that's not fair. You know how important this job is. You know I've been working toward this promotion for years. You know I've been trying to balance everything and you've done a really bad job of it, she interrupted. So yeah, I got married 3 weeks ago, and it was perfect, and everyone who actually matters to me was there. I'm sorry you wasted a trip, but maybe this will teach you that the world doesn't revolve around your schedule. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. This was my little sister. The girl I'd braided hair for before school. The girl I'd taught to drive. The girl I'd stayed up all night with when her high school boyfriend broke her heart. This couldn't be her. This couldn't be the person she'd become. Where are you right now? I asked quietly. We're at Mom's house. Having a little post-wedding gathering. Just close family and friends. Can I come? The pause that followed was so long, so painful, I almost hung up. I don't think that's a good idea, Maya said finally. Honestly, I think you should just go back home. Go back to your job and your life overseas. That's clearly where you want to be anyway. Maya, please, I have to go. We're about to cut into the cake. The leftover cake. From the wedding. That happened 3 weeks ago. Goodbye. She hung up. I sat there on the steps of the empty vineyard, alone, with my suitcase and my useless bridesmaid dress, and I couldn't stop shaking. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. There had to be more to the story. There had to be something I was missing. I opened Instagram again and started looking through all the wedding photos, studying them carefully this time. Looking for clues. Looking for answers. Looking for any sign of what the hell had gone so wrong in my family that my own sister could do this to me. And that's when I noticed something strange. In every single photo, Diane wasn't just there as a guest. She was in the wedding party. She was wearing a sage green dress identical to the other bridesmaids. She was holding a bouquet. She was standing in the formal wedding party photos, right where I should have been. My ex-girlfriend had taken my place as a bridesmaid in my sister's wedding. Maya hadn't just excluded me. She'd replaced me. I zoomed in on one of the photos, a candid shot of Maya laughing with the bridesmaids while getting ready. Diane's arm was around Maya's shoulders. They looked close. Really close. Like best friends. How had I not known they'd gotten this close? When had this happened? I tried to think back over the past year, tried to remember conversations with Maya, but everything was blurry. I had been working a lot. I had missed some calls. Some video chats had been rescheduled because of meetings. But I'd thought we were okay. I'd thought we were close. I kept scrolling and found more photos. Mom and Diane hugging. Jason taking a selfie with Diane in the background making a funny face. Even my grandmother, who'd always told me she thought Diane was peculiar, was beaming at her in one photo. My entire family had apparently bonded with my ex-girlfriend while I was overseas. They liked her better than me. They wanted her at the wedding instead of me. The betrayal was so complete, so total, I almost couldn't comprehend it. I don't know how long I sat there. Long enough that the sun started to set, painting the vineyard in gold and purple light. Long enough that my legs went numb. Long enough that the Uber driver who dropped me off probably thought I'd been kidnapped or murdered. Finally, I forced myself to stand up. Forced myself to think. I couldn't just sit here forever. I needed to figure out what to do next. I could go to Mom's house. I could show up at their little gathering and demand answers. Demand to know why they'd all turned against me. Demand to know why no one had the decency to tell me the truth. But Maya's words kept echoing in my head. I don't think that's a good idea. The coldness in her voice. The finality of it. They didn't want me there. My own family didn't want me. I picked up my suitcase, that stupid garment bag with the bridesmaid dress I'd never wear, and started walking down the long driveway toward the road. I didn't have a plan. I just needed to move. Needed to do something other than sit there drowning in my own thoughts. My phone buzzed. For a second, my heart leaped. Maybe it was Maya calling back. Maybe she'd realized how cruel she'd been. Maybe there was still a chance to fix this. But it wasn't Maya. It was a text from Diane. Heard you made it back to town. Maya told me what happened. I'm sorry you missed the wedding. For what it's worth, it really was beautiful. Your sister was a gorgeous bride. Hope you're doing okay. I stared at that message for a long time. Read it over and over. Tried to find any genuine sympathy in those words and found none. Just smugness. Just satisfaction. She'd won. She'd somehow managed to steal my family while I was gone, and she wanted me to know it. And that's when something inside me shifted. The hurt, the confusion, the desperate need to understand, it all started to transform into something else. Something colder. Something sharper. Rage. Pure, crystalline rage. My sister had betrayed me in the cruelest possible way. My family had abandoned me without a second thought. My ex had wormed her way into my place like some kind of parasite. And they all seemed to think this was acceptable. They seemed to think I deserved this. That I had it coming because I dared to pursue a career, to build a life, to not be constantly available at their beck and call. Well, if they wanted to cast me as the villain in their story, I could play that role. I could play it very, very well. I texted Diane back. Thanks for letting me know. Glad you had fun. Short. Casual. Emotionless. Then I opened a new text to Maya. You're right. I should have been more present. I'm sorry I missed your special day. Congratulations on the marriage. I hope you and Marcus have a wonderful life together. Polite. Gracious. Mature. And completely, utterly fake. Because I wasn't going to cry anymore. I wasn't going to beg for explanations or second chances. I wasn't going to show up at Mom's house and make a scene. I was going to do something much, much better. I was going to find out exactly what had happened. Why this had happened. And I was going to make absolutely sure that everyone involved understood the consequences of what they'd done to me. But I needed information first. I needed to understand the full scope of the betrayal before I could decide how to respond. I called my best friend, Simone. She'd grown up with me and Maya, had been part of our extended friend group forever. She'd been invited to the wedding too, the original wedding date. If anyone could give me unbiased information, it was her. She answered on the second ring. Oh my God, she breathed. Oh my God, I heard. I just heard. Are you okay? Where are you? At least someone sounded concerned. I'm at the vineyard, I said, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. The empty vineyard. On what was supposed to be Maya's wedding day. I can't believe she did this, Simone said, and I could hear genuine anger in her voice. I can't believe any of them did this. When I got the message about the date change, I assumed you knew. I assumed Maya had called you separately. I didn't realize until today when I saw your Instagram story from the plane that you had no idea. Tell me everything, I said. I need to know what happened. All of it. Simone took a deep breath. Okay. So the date change came out of nowhere. Maya sent that message in the group chat, but she also called me separately the same day. She seemed really excited about it, said the venue had a cancellation and it was perfect timing because it meant they could get a better deal. I thought it was weird that she'd change it so last minute, but you know how Maya is when she gets an idea in her head. Did she mention me at all? Not really. I asked if you'd be able to make the new date with your work schedule, and she kind of brushed it off. Said something like she'll figure it out or she'll make it work if she really wants to. It felt dismissive, but I didn't push it. What about Diane? When did she become part of the wedding party? Simone made a disgusted sound. That happened gradually. After your breakup, Maya and Diane started hanging out more. At first, I think Maya felt bad for Diane, which is insane considering Diane was the one who cheated. But Diane played the victim really well, made it seem like the breakup was mutual or something. She started showing up to family dinners, helping with wedding planning. Your mom seemed to really like her, which I never understood. Mom liked her? Yeah, it was weird. I remember being at your mom's house for Easter, and Diane was there, and they were laughing together like old friends. I asked your mom about it later, and she said something about how Diane had been so helpful with the wedding planning, how she really stepped up when you weren't available. My stomach churned. I wasn't available because I was working. I know that. Anyone with a brain knows that. But Maya was spinning a different narrative. She kept making these little comments about how you were too busy for family stuff, how you'd changed since moving overseas, how you were becoming this workaholic who didn't care about anyone but yourself. And I think some of that started to stick with your family. That's not true, I said, but even as I said it, I felt a flicker of doubt. Had I been distant? Had I been so focused on work that I'd missed signs of this happening? Of course it's not true, Simone said firmly. You've been busting your ass to build a career so you could support yourself after Dad passed and left you guys with nothing. You've been sending money home to help your mom with bills. You've been trying to balance a demanding job with staying connected to family across a dozen time zones. But Maya made it sound like you'd abandoned them by choice. Why would she do that? Simone hesitated. Honestly, I think she's jealous. She always has been, a little bit. You were the successful one, the smart one, the one who got out and made something of herself. Maya stayed local, works a job she hates, never really figured out what she wanted to do with her life. And then here you are, living overseas, working for a major company, making good money. I think it ate at her. But I never lauded that over her. I never made her feel bad about her choices. I know you didn't. But sometimes people create narratives in their heads that have nothing to do with reality. And I think Diane helped feed into that. Diane was always good at manipulation, at making people see things her way. She probably sensed that Maya had some resentment toward you and exploited it. I thought about that. It made a horrible kind of sense. Diane had always been charming, always known exactly what to say to make people like her. That's how she'd fooled me for 3 years before I caught her cheating. Of course she'd be able to manipulate Maya, especially if Maya was already feeling insecure about our relationship. What about the wedding itself? I asked. What happened? It was actually really nice, Simone admitted. Pretty venue, good food, nice ceremony. But the whole time, I kept thinking about how wrong it was that you weren't there. I kept looking at Diane standing up there in the bridesmaid dress and wanting to throw something at her. A few other people mentioned it too, asked where you were. Maya told everyone you couldn't make it because of work. Made it sound like you'd chosen not to come. She told people I chose not to come? Yeah. She spun this whole story about how you'd been invited and decided your job was more important. Some people bought it. Others seemed skeptical but didn't push back. You know how it is at weddings. No one wants to cause drama. I felt sick. Not only had Maya excluded me from her wedding, but she'd also made sure to damage my reputation in the process. Made sure everyone thought I was the bad guy. The absent sister who couldn't be bothered to show up. There's something else, Simone said, her voice dropping. Something I think you should know. What? At the reception, during the toasts, Maya said something. She gave this whole speech about family and the people who matter most and being surrounded by the ones who truly love you. And then she said, some people think family is about blood, but I've learned it's really about who shows up. It's about who's there when it counts. And when she said it, she was looking right at Diane. The implication was clear. Diane was family. I wasn't. Did anyone say anything? Did anyone call her out? Your mom teared up and nodded. Jason looked uncomfortable but didn't say anything. A few people looked confused. I almost said something, but my boyfriend grabbed my arm and told me it wasn't the time. He was probably right. It would have just made a scene. But God, I wanted to. I'm glad you didn't, I said, and I meant it. If anyone was going to make a scene, it should be me. Are you going to? Simone asked. Make a scene, I mean. I looked around at the empty vineyard, at the perfect sunset lighting up the hills, at the beautiful venue where my sister should have been getting married today with me by her side. No, I said slowly. I'm not going to make a scene. What are you going to do? I'm going to fix this. What does that mean? I don't know yet. But I'm going to figure it out. After I hung up with Simone, I stood there for a while longer, thinking. Planning. The rage that had been burning in my chest was starting to cool into something more focused. More strategic. Making a scene wouldn't accomplish anything. Showing up at Mom's house and demanding explanations wouldn't change what had happened. Confronting Maya would just give her more ammunition to paint me as the hysterical, self-centered older sister who couldn't handle not being the center of attention. No, I needed to be smarter than that. I needed to understand exactly what I was dealing with before I made any moves. I needed to see the full picture. And most importantly, I needed to figure out what role Diane had played in all of this. Because the more I thought about it, the more convinced I became that this wasn't just Maya being petty or jealous. This had Diane's fingerprints all over it. I called another Uber and gave the driver my mom's address. Not because I was going to crash their little party, but because I needed to see it with my own eyes. I needed to understand what I'd been excluded from. When we got close to the house, I had the driver park down the street. From there, I could see Mom's front yard, which was strung with lights and full of people. Music drifted through the air. Laughter. The sound of happy celebration. I got out of the car and walked closer, staying in the shadows. I could see through the front windows into the living room. There was Maya, still wearing what looked like a casual sundress but with a white flower crown in her hair. Playing bride even though the wedding was 3 weeks past. Marcus, her new husband, had his arm around her waist. Mom was passing out plates of cake. Jason was talking to some cousins. And there, right in the center of everything, was Diane. She was laughing at something Maya said, her head thrown back, perfectly at ease. She looked like she belonged there. Like she'd always belonged there. I watched her for a long time. Watched the way she moved through the crowd, how comfortable she was with my family. She hugged my mom. She made my grandmother laugh. She high-fived Jason. She was everyone's favorite person. And then I saw something that made my blood boil. Diane pulled Maya aside, away from the main group, and they went into the kitchen together. Through the window, I could see them talking, see Diane's hand on Maya's arm. See Maya nodding seriously. See Diane lean in close, whispering something in my sister's ear. See Maya's expression shift from happy to concerned. They were talking about me. They had to be. What else would make Maya look like that? I pulled out my phone and took a few photos. Not great quality in the dim light, but good enough to document what I was seeing. Evidence. I was going to need evidence. Then Diane and Maya came back outside, and this time Diane was holding something. A phone. She showed Maya the screen, and Maya's eyes widened. Then she started laughing. That familiar, musical laugh that I used to love hearing. They were laughing at something on the phone. Something that delighted them both. And I had a terrible feeling I knew what it was. I waited until they went back inside, then I crept around the side of the house, staying low, staying quiet. There was a window to the kitchen that was cracked open, and I could hear voices drifting out. Can't believe she actually showed up at the vineyard, Diane was saying. That's so pathetic. I know, Maya replied, and she was still laughing. Simone texted me and said she's been calling everyone trying to figure out what happened. It's kind of sad. Did you feel bad at all? Even a little bit? There was a pause. I held my breath. No, Maya said finally. I meant what I said to her on the phone. She made her choice. She chose her career over us. This is just her finding out what that means. Still, Diane said, it must have been kind of shocking for her. Flying all that way for nothing. She should have checked her messages more carefully. She should have been paying attention. That's not my fault. You're absolutely right, Diane said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. She has no one to blame but herself. Exactly. And honestly, the wedding was better without her there. She would have just made everything about her somehow. She always does. Remember when we were together and she'd do that thing where she'd interrupt my stories to tell a similar story about herself? It was so annoying. Oh my God, yes. She does that to me too. Everything always has to circle back to her. They kept talking, kept dissecting my flaws and failures, kept laughing at my expense. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped my phone. But I kept listening. Kept recording. Because I needed to hear this. Needed to understand exactly who these people really were. So what do we do now? Maya asked. Do you think she'll try to cause problems? I don't think so, Diane said. She's too proud. She'll probably just slink back overseas and lick her wounds. Honestly, it's probably better for everyone if she stays away for a while. Let things cool down. You're probably right. Mom was saying she thinks this might be good for her. A wake-up call or something. Maybe she'll finally get her priorities straight. Maybe, Diane agreed. Or maybe she'll just keep being the same self-centered person she's always been. They laughed again, and the sound of it made me want to scream. But I didn't scream. I didn't burst through the door and confront them. I didn't do anything except turn around, walk back to my Uber, and tell the driver to take me to a hotel. I checked into the nicest place I could find and went straight to my room. I needed to think. I needed to process what I'd just learned. Because this was so much worse than I'd imagined. This wasn't just Maya being petty or jealous. This wasn't just a miscommunication or a date change that had accidentally excluded me. This was planned. This was intentional. Diane and Maya had actively worked together to exclude me from the wedding. They'd wanted me to miss it. They'd wanted me to show up at an empty venue and feel like an idiot. And then they'd had the audacity to gather at Mom's house and laugh about it. To mock my pain. To act like I deserved this. I sat on the hotel bed and opened the recording I'd made through the window. Listened to it again. Made sure I'd actually heard what I thought I'd heard. Made sure I wasn't misinterpreting or overreacting. No. It was clear. Crystal clear. They'd conspired against me. They'd manipulated the situation to hurt me as much as possible. And they felt absolutely no remorse about it. Well, that changed things. I opened my laptop and started researching. Started digging into every social media account, every photo album, every piece of information I could find about what had happened while I was overseas. I looked at Maya's posts, Diane's posts, Mom's posts. I tracked the timeline of when Diane started appearing in family photos. When she started being invited to family events. When she started becoming more present in their lives than I was. It had been gradual. Subtle. Starting about 6 months after my breakup with Diane. At first, it was just a comment here and there on Maya's posts. Diane offering congratulations on work achievements. Diane suggesting they grab coffee. Then photos started appearing. Casual shots at first, Diane and Maya at a restaurant. Diane and Maya at a yoga class. Nothing alarming. Just two people becoming friends. But then the photos became more frequent. More intimate. Diane at our family's 4th of July barbecue. Diane helping Maya pick out bridesmaid dresses. Diane at Mom's birthday party that I'd missed because of a crucial client meeting I couldn't reschedule. I zoomed in on that birthday photo. Diane had her arm around Mom's shoulders. Mom was beaming at her with genuine affection. And in the background, I could see Maya watching them with this satisfied smile. That's when I realized the true scope of what Diane had done. She hadn't just befriended Maya. She'd systematically inserted herself into my family to replace me. Every event I missed, every call I couldn't take, every moment I was unavailable because of work, Diane had been there. Filling the space I'd left. Making herself indispensable. And Maya had helped her do it. I kept digging. Found a Facebook post from 4 months ago where Mom had shared a photo of Diane and written, "So grateful for this wonderful young woman who's been such a blessing to our family. Some people come into your life exactly when you need them." The comments were full of agreement. Aunts and cousins saying how sweet Diane was. How helpful. How lovely. No one mentioned me. No one said, "But what about your actual daughter who's working overseas to support herself?" No one seemed to remember I existed. I found more evidence in the comment sections, the little casual mentions that revealed how deep this went. Maya complaining about how hard wedding planning was without any help from certain people. Mom posting about how family means being present, not just sending money. Jason sharing a meme about how real sisters show up with 3 laugh-crying emojis. They'd been building a narrative. Painting me as the absent, selfish sister who'd abandoned her family for her career. And Diane had been right there, reinforcing it, playing the role of the supportive friend who actually cared. It was brilliant, in a sick way. Diane had taken everything she knew about my family dynamics, about my relationship with Maya, about my insecurities and used it against me. She'd found the cracks and wedged them wider until they became chasms. And the wedding date change? That hadn't been about a venue cancellation or better timing. That had been the final test. The ultimate proof that I didn't care enough to pay attention. When I inevitably missed the new date because I never saw the message, it would confirm everything they'd been saying about me. I'd played right into their hands. My phone buzzed. Another text from Diane. Just wanted to check in. I know this must be hard for you. If you need someone to talk to, I'm here. I still care about you, even if things didn't work out between us. The audacity. The absolute audacity of this woman. I stared at that message for a long time. Imagined what she'd do if I replied. She'd probably screenshot it and share it with Maya. They'd analyze every word, laugh at my pain, congratulate themselves on how well their plan had worked. But I had something they didn't know about. I had that recording. I had evidence of them mocking me, plotting against me, revealing their true intentions. The question was, what did I do with it? I could post it on social media. Expose them publicly. Let everyone see what kind of people they really were. But that felt too simple. Too crude. It would just make me look vindictive and crazy. Bitter ex-girlfriend and jealous sister posts private conversation online, that's how the story would go. No, I needed something smarter. Something that would unravel everything they'd built. Something that would make them feel exactly what they'd made me feel. I spent the rest of that night researching. Not just about Maya and Diane, but about Marcus, Maya's new husband. Because if I was going to do this right, I needed to understand all the players. Marcus seemed nice enough from his social media. Worked in finance. Liked hiking and craft beer. Posted a lot of photos of him and Maya looking happy together. He'd proposed to Maya 8 months ago, right after my breakup with Diane. Fast timeline, but not unheard of. I scrolled through his photos, looking for anything useful. His friends. His family. His interests. His weaknesses. And then I found something interesting. A comment from 3 months ago on one of Marcus's posts. The post was a photo of him at some finance conference. And the comment was from a woman named Jennifer. Great seeing you there. Let's grab lunch next time I'm in town. Nothing suspicious about that. Except that I recognized Jennifer. She was Marcus's ex-girlfriend from college. They'd dated for 5 years before breaking up when Marcus moved across the country for work. I knew this because Maya had told me about it during one of our video chats. She'd been insecure about Jennifer, worried that Marcus still had feelings for her. I checked Jennifer's profile. She lived in Seattle now. Marcus had lived in Seattle before moving here for his current job. They'd overlapped there for 6 months before Marcus moved. I sent Jennifer a message, pretending to be a mutual friend of Marcus's. Asked if she'd be willing to chat about him. I was thinking of setting him up with someone and wanted to make sure he was over his ex. She responded the next morning. Oh, Marcus. He's great. We actually stayed pretty close after we broke up. We got coffee a few times when he was living in Seattle. I think he has a girlfriend now though. Or maybe he's engaged. I lose track. But yeah, he's a good guy. Got coffee a few times while he was living in Seattle. While he was dating Maya. I asked a few more casual questions. When had they gotten coffee? How often did they talk? Did she think he was still hung up on her? Jennifer was surprisingly forthcoming. They'd met up for coffee every few weeks during those 6 months. They texted regularly. As for whether Marcus still had feelings for her, she didn't know for sure, but he'd definitely been flirty during their last meetup. Had told her he missed her. Had said he sometimes wondered what would have happened if he hadn't moved away. This was 2 months before Marcus proposed to Maya. I thanked Jennifer for her time and sat back, thinking. This wasn't earth-shattering information. Lots of people stay friends with their exes. Lots of people have moments of doubt before getting engaged. But it was something. A crack in the perfect facade. A vulnerability I could potentially exploit. But I still needed more. I needed something bigger. Something that would actually matter. I spent the next few days playing a role. I texted Maya and apologized. Said I'd been thinking about what she'd said and realized she was right. I had been too focused on work. I had been distant. I was sorry for not being a better sister. Her response was cold but civil. Thanks for saying that. I appreciate it. I texted Mom and said I was sorry for missing the wedding. Said I understood if she was disappointed in me. Said I wanted to do better. Mom's response was warmer. Oh honey, We understand you were busy with work. Maya explained everything. Don't beat yourself up about it. Maya explained everything. Of course she had. I texted Jason and asked if we could meet up. Said I wanted to hear about the wedding, see photos, be part of the family again. Jason agreed to meet me for coffee. When I saw him, I was careful to look contrite. Humble. Like someone who'd realized they'd made a mistake and wanted to fix it. I'm sorry I missed everything, I said. I know I've been distant. I know I haven't been as present as I should be. Jason shrugged uncomfortably. It's okay. You're busy. We get it. Does Maya hate me? He hesitated. She doesn't hate you. She's just frustrated, I think. She felt like you weren't prioritizing family. I was trying to build a career. To be financially stable. After Dad died and left us with nothing, I wanted to make sure I could support myself. Support Mom if she needed it. I know, Jason said. And we appreciate that. The money you send Mom really helps. But I think Maya felt like you were choosing success over relationships. Did she tell you she moved the wedding date specifically when she knew I'd be traveling? Jason looked uncomfortable again. What? No. She said it was a venue thing. Jason, I was on a plane when she sent that message in the group chat. I was mid-flight. There was no way I could have seen it. And she never followed up with me directly. Never called. Never texted to make sure I knew. He frowned. That doesn't sound right. She must have just assumed someone else told you. Did you tell me? Well, no, but did Mom? I don't know. Probably. No one told me, Jason. I flew 14 hours thinking I was coming to Maya's wedding, and I showed up to an empty venue. And when I called Maya, she told me I should have checked my messages more carefully. That I deserved to miss the wedding because I'm always too busy with work. Jason's frown deepened. She said that? Yes. And she told me she didn't really want me there anyway. That Diane has been more of a sister to her than I have. Diane? Jason looked genuinely confused. Your ex. My ex who cheated on me. My ex who I specifically asked Maya not to invite to the wedding. Yes, that Diane. Except Maya didn't just invite her, she made her a bridesmaid. Diane wore the dress that should have been mine. She stood where I should have stood. She's in all the family photos that I should be in. Jason looked uncomfortable now. Really uncomfortable. Look, I don't know all the details about the Diane thing. But yeah, it was kind of weird that she was in the wedding party. I asked Maya about it, and she said Diane had been really helpful with planning and that she deserved to be included. More helpful than me? Her actual sister? You weren't here, Jason said, and there was an edge to his voice now. Look, I'm not trying to be harsh, but you weren't here. You were overseas. You missed holidays. You missed birthdays. You were always on a call or in a meeting or too tired to video chat. Diane was here. She showed up. And yeah, maybe it's weird, but Maya felt closer to her. Because Maya cut me out. My voice was rising. She stopped inviting me to things. She stopped filling me in on family stuff. She created distance and then blamed me for it. Jason held up his hands. I don't know what to tell you. This is between you and Maya. But maybe instead of acting like you're the victim here, you should think about your part in how things got to this point. I forced myself to take a breath. To calm down. Getting emotional wouldn't help me right now. You're right, I said quietly. I do need to think about my part in this. And I am. I'm trying to understand what went wrong so I can fix it. Jason softened a little. Look, I love you both. You're both my sisters. I don't want there to be this huge rift. But Maya's really hurt. She felt abandoned by you. Whether or not that's fair, that's how she feels. And I think if you want to repair this, you need to give her space and time. How much time? He shrugged. I don't know. However long it takes. We talked a little more, but I could tell Jason had made up his mind about whose side he was on. Or maybe he just didn't want to get involved. Either way, I wasn't going to get much more from him. When I left the coffee shop, I felt more determined than ever. Everyone had bought Maya's version of events. Everyone believed I was the problem. Even Jason, who I'd always been close with, seemed convinced that I'd brought this on myself. But I had evidence. I had that recording of Maya and Diane mocking me. I had proof that this wasn't just about me being distant, it was about them actively conspiring to exclude me and then laughing about my pain. The question remained, how did I use it? I went back to my hotel and lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. Thinking through different scenarios. Different plans. Different ways this could play out. I could confront Maya directly with the recording. Force her to admit what she'd done. But she'd probably just deny it or claim I was taking things out of context. And it would be my word against hers. Everyone already believed her narrative. I could play the recording for Mom. For Jason. For other family members. Get them to see the truth. But would they? Or would they just see it as me being vindictive? Trying to cause drama? Making everything about me again? I could go nuclear. Post the recording online. Let the world hear what Maya and Diane had really said. But that felt too destructive. Too much like burning down everything just to feel the warmth. No, I needed something different. Something that would expose the truth but also give me leverage. Something that would make them understand that actions have consequences. And then it hit me. The wedding registry. I pulled out my laptop and found Maya and Marcus's wedding registry. They'd registered at 3 different stores, fancy kitchen stuff, expensive linens, honeymoon fund contributions. The works. According to the registry, they'd only received about 60% of what they'd asked for. Apparently, some people hadn't gotten around to buying gifts before the wedding date was moved up so suddenly. I looked at the items still available. A Le Creuset Dutch oven. A Vitamix blender. Egyptian cotton sheets. A set of all-clad pans. Each item was hundreds of dollars. I started buying. Not everything, that would be too obvious. But I bought the big-ticket items. The things they'd probably been hoping would get purchased. I spent over $3,000 in about 20 minutes. Then I had everything shipped to my hotel address instead of theirs. When the items started arriving a few days later, I didn't open them. I just let them pile up in my hotel room. Boxes and boxes of expensive wedding gifts that Maya and Marcus would never receive. But that was just the first step. The second step required me to do something I'd been avoiding. I needed to reach out to Diane directly. Needed to engage with her. Needed to make her think we were going to be friends again. I texted her. Hey. Sorry for being cold earlier. This has all been really hard for me, but I've been doing some thinking. Would you be willing to meet up? I'd like to talk. She responded within minutes. Of course. I'd love to. How about coffee tomorrow? Too eager. She was too eager. That told me everything I needed to know. She wanted to gloat. Wanted to see my pain up close. Wanted to revel in her victory. Perfect. We met at a trendy coffee shop the next afternoon. Diane was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table with 2 lattes waiting. She stood up and hugged me like we were old friends reuniting. I'm so glad you wanted to talk, she said as we sat down. I've been worried about you. Liar. I've been struggling, I admitted, letting my voice sound vulnerable. This whole thing with Maya has really shaken me. I can imagine, Diane said, her face arranged in an expression of sympathy that didn't reach her eyes. It must have been so shocking to realize you'd missed the wedding. It was. I still don't really understand how it happened. How I missed the message about the date change. Diane sipped her latte. Well, these things happen. You were busy with work. It's easy to miss things when you're overwhelmed. Maya said she didn't want me there anyway. She said that. Diane looked surprised, but I could see the calculation behind her eyes. That seems harsh. She said a lot of harsh things. She said I'd chosen my career over family. That I was never around. That you'd been more of a sister to her than I had. Diane had the grace to look uncomfortable. I'm sure she didn't mean it like that. She was probably just hurt and lashing out. Were you too close? While I was gone, we became friends, Diane said carefully. After you and I broke up, Maya reached out to me. She wanted to make sure I was okay. We started having coffee, talking. She was going through a lot with wedding planning, and I guess I was going through stuff too. We bonded. And you helped her with the wedding. I did. She needed help, and I was happy to provide it. I didn't realize at the time that it would cause issues between you two. Another lie. She knew exactly what she was doing. Did you know she was going to change the wedding date? Diane nodded. She mentioned she was thinking about it. The venue had a cancellation, and it was a good opportunity. Did you encourage her to do it? I don't think I encouraged her exactly. I just said that if the timing worked better for her, she should go for it. Even though she knew I'd be traveling when she sent the message? Diane's expression flickered. Just for a second. I didn't know about your travel schedule. But Maya did. She knew exactly when I'd be in the air. When I'd be unable to see the message. I'm sure that was just coincidence, Diane said, but her voice had lost some of its warmth. Was it? I leaned forward. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you and Maya worked together to make sure I missed that wedding. It looks like you both wanted me to show up at an empty venue and feel like an idiot. Diane's face went cold. That's a pretty serious accusation. Is it untrue? Yes, she said firmly. Maya changed the date for legitimate reasons. If you weren't paying attention to family communications, that's not our fault. Our fault. Interesting choice of words. Diane set down her latte. Look, I came here to be supportive. To help you process what happened. But if you're just going to accuse me of orchestrating some conspiracy against you, then maybe this wasn't a good idea. You're right, I said, switching tactics. I'm sorry. I'm just hurt and looking for someone to blame. It's not fair to you. Diane relaxed slightly. I understand. This is a difficult situation. Can I ask you something? Honestly? Of course. Do you think I was a bad sister? Do you think I deserved to miss Maya's wedding? Diane took a long time to answer. I think you made choices that had consequences. You prioritized your career. You weren't present for your family. That's not being a bad sister necessarily, but it does mean you miss out on things. Like weddings. Like weddings. I nodded slowly, like I was absorbing this wisdom. You're probably right. I need to do better. I think that would be good, Diane said. For everyone. We talked a little more, carefully polite conversation about nothing important. When we left, Diane hugged me again. I hope you and Maya can work things out, she said. Family is important. It really is, I agreed. As I walked back to my hotel, I thought about the conversation. About the lies Diane had told. About the way she'd tried to manipulate me even while pretending to be supportive. She was good. I'd give her that. She was very good at playing the concerned friend. But she'd also revealed something important. She was nervous. Worried that I'd figured out what they'd done. Worried that I'd cause problems. Good. She should be worried. That night, I started phase 3 of my plan. I created a fake email account and sent a message to Jennifer, Marcus's ex-girlfriend from Seattle. The email was supposedly from a concerned friend who'd seen Marcus and Jennifer together at that finance conference. Someone who was worried that Marcus wasn't being faithful to his new wife. I saw you and Marcus having coffee several times while he was living in Seattle, I wrote. I saw the way he looked at you. I know he told you he missed you. Does his wife know about this? Does she know he was meeting up with his ex while they were dating? I think she deserves to know the truth. I attached screenshots of Jennifer's own social media posts from that time period, posts where she'd mentioned getting coffee with an old friend or having a great catch-up. Nothing incriminating on its own, but suggestive when viewed through a lens of suspicion. Then I sent the email to Maya. Not from my account. From an anonymous address that couldn't be traced back to me. Just a concerned stranger who thought Maya should know her new husband might not be as faithful as she believed. I knew Maya. I knew how insecure she was about Marcus's relationship with Jennifer. I knew this would eat at her. And then I waited. It took less than 12 hours for the fallout to begin. Maya posted a cryptic message on social media, "When you realize people aren't who you thought they were." Then she deleted it. Then she posted another one, "Trust is everything. Once it's broken, can it ever be repaired?" I watched the comments roll in. Friends asking if she was okay. Family members expressing concern. Maya didn't respond to any of them. That afternoon, I got a text from Jason. "Did you send Maya something? She's freaking out about Marcus. Won't tell me what's going on, but she's really upset." I responded, "No, why? What happened?" "I don't know. Something about his ex. She's been crying all day." Perfect. I gave it another day, let the suspicion fester and grow. Let Maya drive herself crazy wondering if her new husband had been cheating on her. Let her question everything. And then I sent another anonymous email. This time to Marcus. "Your wife has been asking questions about Jennifer. She knows about the coffee meetups in Seattle. She knows you told Jennifer you missed her. She's wondering what else you've been hiding. Maybe you should talk to her before this gets worse." I knew Marcus would panic. I knew he'd try to explain it away, but his explanations would sound like excuses. The fact that he'd met up with Jennifer multiple times without telling Maya, that wasn't great. The fact that he'd been flirty with her just 2 months before proposing, that would be hard to explain away. And Maya, already primed to distrust him because of her insecurities, would not be easily convinced. Sure enough, within hours, social media exploded. Maya posted, "Some people are really good at lying. Really, really good. And you believe them because you want to believe them. Because you love them. But eventually the truth comes out. And it hurts more than you can imagine." The comments were frantic now. "What happened? Are you okay? Do you need anything?" Maya responded to one, "Just dealing with some major trust issues in my marriage. That's all. In my marriage." She'd said it publicly. She'd made her marital problems public less than a month after getting married. I felt a twinge of something that might have been guilt. Marcus probably wasn't actually cheating. He'd probably just had a few innocent coffee meetups with an ex. But he'd also hidden it from Maya. And given how Maya and Diane had treated me, given how they'd plotted and schemed and laughed at my pain, I found it hard to feel too bad about causing some chaos in return. Besides, I wasn't done yet. The wedding gifts had all arrived at my hotel. Boxes and boxes of expensive items that Maya and Marcus thought they were getting but would never receive. I took photos of everything. The Dutch oven. The blender. The sheets. The pans. All the beautiful expensive things still in their boxes, wrapped in plastic, unused. Then I created another anonymous social media account and posted the photos with a caption, "When you spend thousands of dollars on wedding gifts for your sister but she tells you she didn't want you at the wedding anyway, guess these will be going back to the store. Or maybe I'll keep them. Haven't decided yet." I didn't tag Maya. I didn't mention her name. But I used enough details that anyone who knew about our situation would understand what I was referring to. And I made sure Diane saw it by sending her the link from yet another anonymous account. Within an hour, my phone exploded. First, "Jason, what the hell are you doing? Why did you buy all those gifts just to post about returning them? This is insane." Then Mom, "Honey, I saw your post. This isn't healthy. You need to let this go. Maya is going through a hard time right now with Marcus. She doesn't need you making things worse." Then, finally, Maya herself, "I can't believe you. I can't believe you would stoop this low. Publicly humiliating me during the worst week of my life. You're unbelievable." I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I went to the coffee shop where I knew Diane liked to work in the afternoons. I brought my laptop. I sat at a table near hers but not too close. And I made sure she saw me. She looked startled when she noticed me. Uncomfortable. Like she wanted to leave but didn't want to make it obvious. I smiled at her. A small, knowing smile. Then I opened my laptop and played the recording. Not loud enough for the whole coffee shop to hear. But loud enough for her to recognize her own voice drifting across the space. Can't believe she actually showed up at the vineyard. That's so pathetic. Diane's face went white. I watched her for a moment, then closed the laptop and left. Let her sweat. Let her wonder what I was going to do with that recording. Let her worry about whether I'd play it for Maya, for Mom, for everyone. That night, Diane called me. I let it go to voicemail. She called again. Voicemail. Then she texted, "We need to talk. Please." I waited an hour before responding. "I have nothing to say to you. I know you recorded us." That was a private conversation. Was it? Because it sounded an awful lot like two people conspiring to hurt someone and then laughing about it. You're twisting things. That's not what happened. Really? Because I have the audio. I have proof of exactly what happened. My phone rang again. Diane calling. I answered this time. "What do you want?" I asked coldly. "I want you to delete that recording," Diane said. Her voice was shaking. "What you did was illegal. You can't record people without their consent. Actually, in this state, I only need one party consent to record a conversation. And since I was present, even if just outside a window, I'm that one party." That's not, "You weren't part of the conversation." Want to test that theory in court? Because I'm happy to. I'm sure a judge would be very interested to hear how you and my sister conspired to exclude me from her wedding and then mocked me for being hurt about it.